The survivors are going from don't die tomorrow to can we be here next summer. But over here, nothing is like you're used to. I have a friend who once got a survival course to collect all of the fluff out of their belly buttons, and he lit a fire using that. Hi, my name's John Hudson. I'm the UK Military's Chief Survival Instructor, the author of How to Survive, and today I'm going to be looking at gameplay from Stranded: Alien Dawn. This is pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, his angle of approach is quite steep. You wouldn't want to do a forced landing at that angle. Oh, there we go, he's recovering a bit. Oh dear, heading straight towards the rocks. You can't say for definite how you as an individual react to these sorts of things, but they've had a life-threatening event. The vehicle's crashed to a kind of an alarming halt next to a rock. And for the others to be doing nothing, well, that's perfectly normal. 75% of us, when confronted with this sort of thing, will be stunned and bewildered, and we won't know what to do. So we will be looking for leadership, and that's where the game player helps the crew out in a way, because it starts to give them goal-directed behaviour. What the survivors will want to do, though, is stay quite close to the scene of the crash. It's going to provide resources for them, and then, yeah, start building a shelter. You're looking at making it appropriate to the climate type. Lush green vegetation, it's probably going to rain, you'll want a nice roof on top of there, and you'd probably want to be off the floor with a bed if you can, because when it's cold at night, you'll conduct most of the heat into the ground. So as you can see, you know, the survivors have done a great job already. They've got sort of thatched bedding, thatched roof. I'd give them about a 9.5 out of 10 for that, I reckon. The second most important thing after you've protected yourself from the climate is to provide some kind of central heating, and you want a fire, because the fire is great for cooking on, it's great for purifying water. There are things that you can commonly bring in survival kits, little fire lighting kits that have got small spark generating devices in them, taking up no space at all in survival packs. And if you can get a little spark like that into something, maybe even just the cotton from a t-shirt. I have a friend who once got a survival course to collect all of the fluff out of their belly buttons, and he lit a fire using that. But if you haven't thought about it beforehand and you haven't brought things along, trying to rub sticks together like you see in the films is incredibly difficult. Eventually, no matter how frugal you are with the resources you've brought with you, things will start to run out, and that's when you need to have thought ahead and start to prepare by foraging for equivalent items in the local environment. If you're running out of food, you need to start thinking early, if you know you're going to be there for a while, about what you will eat. But over here, nothing is like you're used to. And so in that scenario, what you'd have to do is a bit of research into what things are actually made of. The bit that I think's interesting about this, the fact that they're also considering level 1 agriculture, means the mindset of the survivors has definitely switched to long-term survival. It's a really interesting shift now. The survivors are going from don't die tomorrow to can we be here next summer if there's a relief vessel coming. All right, so new environment. This looks arid to me. I can see plants that are typical of a desert region. So the challenges of these environments are going to be different slightly from the temperate. Admittedly, we've got water, so that's a big box ticked, but the sun itself is a threat here, so we'll need shade, and the shelter that they've built looks pretty decent to me. I mean, we're seeing through the roof, but it's obviously going to provide decent shade for them during the daytime. The poor old Rita, she's been attacked by bugs. I mean, admittedly, the only bugs I've been attacked by are small, and even that can cause problems, but a massive crawly thing like they've got in this environment is going to present a whole host of new problems. The next degree of difficulty, once you've prevented things like bleeding, is infection. You're dependent upon plants or your knowledge of the local fungi to generate stuff like antibiotics. That's quite advanced technology. I know it can be done in the game, but it's very, very difficult, and it takes time. You're gonna have to invest some of your time for just in case scenarios in the future. So different animals are appearing near the homestead, and this is, now I think we're dangerously close to stepping away from survival here and becoming culture. So by approaching what looks to be potentially dangerous creature, and by trying to coax it in, develop a bond with it that the human is then going to exploit, it's an excellent survival strategy for long term, because that's going to provide tons of meat, it's going to provide calories up the yin yang, it's going to provide the fur that you need to make a winter garment, and by the looks of its enormous rack, it's going to provide a drinking horn for the alcohol you fermented earlier. Not least that, and spear points, all that kind of good stuff. Hunting and trapping, the two different ways of procuring protein as food, are the things I cover in survival training, and trapping's normally easier, so something like a trap and a trigger like that is easier than actively hunting something. The good thing about the game though is that the context is you can stay for a lot longer, you're going to be able to adapt and develop things that are far higher in technological value, and so you actually get to do much more exotic types of weapons in this game scenario than you could in real world. So there's a lot of opportunity here to really play with your imagination and see what kind of stuff you can come up with. The tricky part with real world survivals, it's the hope part. If you believe that rescue is possible or that there's a way out, then you can keep going with intrinsic goal-directed behaviour. If you can maintain that hope, then you can do the next thing and the next thing, which leads to rescue. And before you know it, you could become this kind of beacon for people to come back to, and you've created a proper little community then. It becomes like a focal point for survivors. So if you can build your team, you've got a better chance of surviving. Thanks for watching. Stranded Alien Dawn lands on April 25th. Enjoy your adventure.